Great. Hello. So I'm Chris from Creative Concern. I'm part of the DNS network. Thank you ever so much for inviting us here, and to Mira, and for this wonderful event. Really enjoyed the speaking. Really enjoyed hearing about King Shakir, because I'm also going to be talking about comics and illustration as well. And it's a project called 10 Years to Save the World. And it was all about really trying to find new ways to engage young people about the climate crisis. I've been working in climate crisis communications for about 20 years, and I'm always keen to find new ways that we can bring those stories to life. And we had an opportunity here to work with 10 comic artists, 5 in the UK and 5 in the Philippines, to get an international perspective. And we wanted them to come up with new ways of looking at the climate crisis that would really draw young people in and to stimulate climate action. And the age group of 16 to 25 was really because that age often doesn't really engage with normal mainstream news media, and also often doesn't read that often in terms of the science. And so we wanted to find a way to break through that really, and to get people to kind of take notice. And we started that by having conversations with young people. So we realized that actually we didn't really know how to brief the artists in terms of what would appeal to young people. So we started by talking to young people both in the UK and the Philippines about what would work to them, what would cut through, what would engage them. And they told us many things really, but they said that it needed to be urgent, that it needed to inspire them, and it needed to be political, and it needed to kind of not hold back, to sort of really tell it like it is, and that actually they were also fed up with being told what to do by adults. So they had had enough of that, and so they were also keen that these comics pointed the finger at government, pointed the finger at big business, and asked them to do more. And they said that they'd act, but business needs to act first. So there was quite a lot of anger really underlying that. And so then we recruited the 10 artists, and we deliberately chose artists that would have already had engagement with young people, because what we realized is that our existing communications channels wasn't going to reach the young people. So we approached artists that already had an authentic dialogue with young people, either in the UK or the Philippines. Also some controversial artists as well that we knew might get picked up and be talked about. And we also wanted to make sure that the work itself was really good. The quality of the art was really, really important as well, because this is a project that we worked on with 2 comic art festivals. And so the quality of the work was super important for them. And so we had 10 comics. And when I say comics, they were all digital comics. So they're all available free online to everybody. We did print an anthology at the end, but really the whole point was that everything would be seen online and on social media. And so this is just one panel. Some of them, the amazing thing about comics is that you can tell a story sometimes in just 4 panels, 4 pictures, or you can have long form. It's a really, really diverse media, which is really exciting. So this was in a way, quite traditional, multiple panels. But this was all from the point of view of the monkey. So the monkey's view about deforestation. And it was quite a cheeky monkey. It swore a lot. It uses bad words, you know. But it had lots of humor in it as well. So, and that's kind of what really worked with this one. This artist, Jack Teagle, his comic was all about greenwashing and about how soft drinks companies were pretending to make healthy drinks that were great for the planet, but in reality were continuing in the same way that they always had, polluting the planet. So his was quite hard-hitting, but also had a lot of fun and energy to it as well. And Clarice's was all about this character, the fat cat, which in the UK, the fat cat is the big corporate monster who eats up all the world's resources, doesn't care about the planet, and does whatever it likes. And Clarice's comics were usually just 4 pictures. And she had one about destroying the Earth and taking off in a rocket and so on. But Clarice's work is hugely popular. So on social media, she might post, and then in an hour, she has 10,000 people commenting, liking her posts. So very, very popular. Manx was from the Philippines, and his was no words at all, just pictures. And this is actually the full story. It's quite a powerful story, really. It's about a fisherman who decides to complain about the fact that the oceans are polluted. He goes to the ministry, he goes to business, and he ends up getting murdered like the fish. So it's quite a dark story, but it's a very powerful story. And this artist, Ren, this is a really interesting story. So this is a story about a mother who's pregnant, and she's worried about whether her child will survive in this world where the climate's changed. So she dreams of a child born with gills, so the child can live underwater when the world is flooded, but also has scales in case it can protect her against the heat. So it's quite a dark story around what have we done to the world, but it's done in a very beautiful and powerful way. So all of the comics lived online, and they were also connected to activities. So once you read a comic about, say, plastic pollution, you would then you have suggestions about what you could do as a young person about that topic. So where you could sign a petition, where you could donate, where you could campaign. So it was connected. The stories were connected to the actions. The website is 10yearstosavetheworld.com in case we need more hits. So 10yearstosavetheworld.com, that's where you need to go. And then what was interesting from that is that we didn't expect this, but people then wanted to see the artwork in galleries and in exhibitions, which wasn't part of what we planned, really. So it really took off. This is on the main BBC building, BBC broadcasting building. They wanted it on the outside of their building, which is fantastic. So it was seen by many thousands of people walking in. And when you went into the building, there was all the comics were on display inside. And so on. So they were really popular just as artwork as well in their own right. So they worked on social media, digitally, but then they became pieces of artwork that people wanted to actually engage with and talk about. And it went on display in London as well. And also what was interesting is it also got media attention. So in the UK, it's very hard to get media attention about the climate crisis now because it's felt like it's been talked about so much that actually to get it on television now is very, very difficult. But we managed to get it on the BBC, the ITV, and many other titles because people were finding it had a new perspective, a new energy, and a new way of telling those stories. It's a relatively small project, and it's been going for about 6 or 7 months, but it's starting to have an impact. So we've had 210,000 page views, 470,000 people have viewed and commented on the comics, and it's growing all the time. So it's starting to really have that sort of traction. And we actually can't track it all because what's happened is lots of people have shared and reshared and reshared, and we can't track everything, but we know that it's having a good impact. So what have we learned from that? We've learned a few things, really, that if you want to reach young people, then use other young people to reach young people. It's a very different audience. It's a quite different mindset. And if you can find people who are authentic and connect with young people, it will be much more powerful. And also that we do need new perspectives. Like all of the stories that came out about climate change, I hadn't read before. They made me think about it in a different way. And often for the artists, it was the first time that they'd talked about or written about climate change. So they were coming at it in a very direct and different way. And I think that was really, really exciting. And also, it's really proven to me that comics can cut through and make a difference. I think there's something magical about comics in the sense that they have no boundaries or rules. So you can create any world that you want. You can create any character that you want. And you can also combine reality with unreality. So you can have half a comic that's completely like the real world and half a comic that's not the real world, and it's fine. You can just push these things together and make completely different concepts. And there's no limit to the format. So you can have single page, multi-page, anything. And so I think that really, really is exciting. And I think it does connect with people in a different way. And also, if you haven't read a comic, I'll challenge you to try and find a comic. There'll be many in Turkey, some fantastic comic artists in Turkey, because it's a different way of taking in the information. I think that's what's so special about it. So when you see why adverts, like an advert is so powerful, is because you see an image and a headline, and the two things combine. And comics are doing that all the time. Every panel is doing that. And that's, I think, part of the magic of them, really. But you have to teach yourself to slow down when you read them. If not, you gobble them up too quickly. So the other thing that's taught me in terms of emotions is that actually young people are quite angry. Not all of them, and not all the time. But they're angry about this issue. And I think it's okay to be angry. It's okay. You don't have to be polite about this anymore. But it's also like to laugh, you know. Even at the darkest issues, and comic artists are very good at this, is finding ways to laugh at that issue and find new ways, new emotions connected to it. And so that really works. So our last message is, comics can change the world. We genuinely believe that. And just to end really on a personal and quite embarrassing story, but I'm going to share it anyway, in terms of whether I think this has made any difference. So my son is 24, so he's the target market. And we debate lots of things. And we had we had a heated debate one evening about, he was saying that it's not worth looking at sustainability. It's all over, Earth's done. We need to invest in the space race. We need to get off Earth pretty quick. You've messed it up. It's too late, Dad, which was great conversation. Then he went to the exhibition and he saw a comic, just 4 panels, and it had a rocket on it and a little story. And he came away and he went, she's got something there. She's right, isn't she? It's all right. We should sort this planet out. And I was just like, we had 2 hours debating the evening before, and he saw 4 pictures, and it persuaded him. And I kind of thought, that's the proof that it can work, and that's why it was worth doing this project. So, thank you very much.